I would never do a bro split, and this is exactly why. Okay, a bro split is what the vast majority of fitness coaches are teaching their clients, and it's basically like a workout routine where you blast every single muscle separately throughout the week, right? So you would do like just chest, or maybe like chest and triceps, and then you would do a new muscle and you would do a bunch of work on that, and then a new muscle, bunch of work on that, and then kind of repeat, right? So the reason I can even talk about this is because I used to be a big bro split guy, because that's what I learned growing up, starting my fitness journey, because that's all I saw online. That's what people were doing on social media, so I figured that was the only way. And it really took me like servicing tons of sessions, thousands of sessions, and then hurting myself, doing a deep dive into the science behind how muscle growth works. I ended up investing $3,000 into learning from Chris Beardsley, who's like a world-class exercise physiologist who specializes in muscle growth. And he basically taught me exactly why these aren't the best and why we're gonna do something different, which is what I'm gonna show you today, okay? And what we're gonna do instead is more full body or upper lower splits, okay? So it's basically like you do train more muscle groups in a session instead of just blasting like one or two. You will do more, and you're doing less sets on each muscle, right? Each session, but you're doing it more frequently throughout the week. Does that make sense? So it kind of would look like this. Right, so like if this was muscle growth and this was muscle loss, right? A lot of people that are doing bro splits, it will kind of look like this. Let's say they were training the chest, and they're gonna come in and they're gonna say like, hey, yeah, you gotta do like 4 to 6 exercises for the chest, 3 to 4 sets on each one, right? And you kind of get a bit of growth, like a good signal, a good bit of growth for the chest, but then it's blasted so hard, it's aching and pain so much that you gotta wait like a whole nother week before you train that muscle again, right? So by the time it kind of dips down, and then by the time next week comes around, you kind of start exactly, you're like right where you started. And then you kind of go through this perpetual cycle where it kind of feels like you're doing a lot of work, but you're not seeing a lot of progress. Kind of like you're just banging your head against the wall, right? Because you get a big stimulus, but then you have to wait so long to train it again that it drops all the way down to baseline, right? But when you do more full body and more upper lower splits, where you're doing less sets on a muscle group, but you're doing it more frequently throughout the week, it'll look more like this, right? You might get like a smaller signal, but then right as it's about to dip, boom, you train that muscle again a couple days later. And then right as it's about to dip, boom, you train it again. And same thing. So it's like you always catch it right when it's about to dip and you train that muscle again, okay? So that's kind of why I would never do a bro split. And then there's another model that I want to show that will really bring this home, okay? Right, so think like so imagine like a pencil. Right, when a pencil is very fresh and it's sharp, you just sharpened it, right? If this was like the effectiveness of the pencil, and then this was like the usage of the pencil, right? When a pencil is just fresh, it's very effective. It works very well. But then the more you use it, it starts to lose its effectiveness until it's a complete nub, and then it doesn't even work at all, right? So same thing with training any muscle in a workout, right? So if the usage was like sets, right? Like first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, the more sets that you do on a muscle in a workout, the less effective each set is. Right, so like these first 2 sets, you get really effective, a really good bang for your buck, really good return on your time and energy. But if you're doing the bro split strategy and you're like really hammering these muscles and you're doing a bunch of stuff on them every single time, you're starting to get diminishing returns, and you kind of get into this territory over here where you're not actually getting that much return on your time and energy. So why would we want to do that? Right? And if you're doing a bro split, that's like you're doing like these really like inefficient sets all the time, right? So like for you, who your goal is just to be super efficient with your workouts, to actually make the most out of your time and energy, to get in and know that you're not wasting your time and you're doing the right stuff, it's going to be very important that we stay in this territory where we're doing these really effective sets and we're not setting up our program in a way where we're doing these really bad sets over here. Okay, so that's another reason why the full body and the upper lower splits are so good compared to the bro splits is on one muscle group. Let's say I'm doing like 4 muscle groups in a workout, right? And I'm doing 2 to 3 sets on each. 2 to 3 sets on each muscle, right? That's gonna put us between 8 and 12 sets for the workout, right? But because they're the really high quality sets, excuse me, they're not the ineffective sets, we can actually make more out of less, right? We can get really good bang for our buck, right? So that's kind of like the secret sauce behind building muscle very efficiently, is you want to know how to make the most out of everything that you do instead of just like having to do more, right? And not a lot of fitness trainers know about this. Most people are doing the bro splits, which is just like I said, it's really painful. It's not as effective. It's not as efficient. So it's just kind of like mind-boggling that everybody's doing that, but it's just they don't really understand how this works. So that's why I want to share with you to make sure that you don't fall into that trap and that you can actually get the benefit of only having to do 8 to 12 sets in a workout, but still get even better results than what a lot of people are teaching, which is like 15 to 30 sets. Like I would never want to do that many sets in one workout. That's crazy to me. I'd much rather do less, but actually get really good bang for my buck with each one. Okay, so let's go out onto the gym floor and I could show you what these really good bang for my buck sets would actually look like. All right, so follow me. Okay, I'm gonna erase this guy. Right? So we're talking about those really good bang for our buck sets. I call those, we're gonna need to know something called gritty reps. Gritty reps. Okay, you're probably, Jake, what does gritty reps mean? Okay, well, gritty reps are, those are what we need to pursue if we're gonna get really good bang for our buck. And there's 2 important branches of a gritty rep. Okay? Scientifically, which you probably don't really care about, it's called motor unit recruitment and it's called mechanical tension. Right? That's the science words, right? You can look that stuff up. This is what creates hypertrophy muscle growth, right? But what you really need to know, if you don't want to really care about the physiology and you more so just care about like making sure that you're being efficient with your workouts, getting the best bang for your buck, best return on your time and energy, is you need to know how to get max effort, and then you need to know how to make sure that it's a slow contraction. Okay? So every single set, if the rep is max effort, but it's still a slow contraction, those things together, that's how you create, that's like called the hypertrophic rep. Like that's how you create muscle growth, right? So that's like muscle growth. Okay, so I'm gonna show you what this looks like, right? Right, let's say I was doing something like a cable curl. All right, we're right here. Let's say I got this on here. Okay. So 2 things. Remember, 1 is max effort, 2 is it needs to be a slow contraction. Right? So I'm gonna show you, let's say I had a light weight, but if I'm gonna give max effort on a light weight, and I'll show you what it looks like. Right? So this weight, it's kind of like a medium weight, but I'm gonna give max effort. So watch this. See how it's going way too fast? That's how you know it's not a gritty rep. I'm pushing as hard as I can, pulling as hard as I can, but it's not a slow contraction, right? Now, I can also, with a lightweight, I can make it a slow contraction by manually going slow, by thinking about going slow, but it's not gonna be max effort. So that's what this would look like. So I'm like really like manually going slow, but I'm not really pulling my hardest with every rep. Okay, that's also not a gritty rep. Okay, and that's what a lot of people are doing. That's why a lot of people get stuck and they're not being as efficient with their time in the gym, is they're doing a lot of those types of sets where it's like really manually slow, but because they're not giving max effort, they're not actually gaining access to new muscle fibers, right? And that's why they just kind of stay stuck. They keep retraining the same muscle fibers over and over, right? But I'll show you what it looks like if I do have those two very important parameters, the max effort and the slow contraction. And the only way you can get both of those things is by selecting a heavy weight. Right, so I'm gonna pick a weight that is so heavy that even though I'm giving max effort, the contraction is still going slow on its own. Okay, that's what gritty reps is all about. Okay, so watch this. It's heavy now. I got the full stack on here. I'm gonna curl my hardest with every single rep. And that was perfect. That was some gritty reps right there. I was pulling my hardest, but even though it was max effort, because the weight was heavy and it was still going slow, that's exactly what we're looking for. Okay, maybe you're thinking like, Jake, that's pretty cool, but that looked intense and hard. I don't know if I can do that. I've coached lots of people of all different shape and size, gender, age. They can all do gritty reps. Okay, I've trained a woman named Susan. I used to call her Strong Susan. She could do gritty reps. I trained a guy named Jerry. He's in his 60s. He can do gritty reps. My dad can do gritty reps. Okay, but I've also trained a young dude, Wyatt, who's 17. He can do gritty reps. My client Ricky, he's almost 300 pounds. He can do gritty reps. Everybody can do gritty reps. Okay, so even if you might say, okay, maybe you've thought this before, like, Jake, I don't want to get too bulky. And I heard if you lift heavy, that's how you get bulky. And I want to be toned. So I need to lift light. Okay, have you heard that before? Yeah. Okay, here's how I'm going to debunk that. Okay. All right, okay, so let's say this was like a spectrum. And this was like, you have no muscle. Like you're like a stick. And then you're like got like lots of muscle. Lots of muscle. Right? Okay. It's not like if you just lift with heavy weights, you're immediately going to just be like super bulky, right? And it's not like if you just do lighter weight, higher rep, that you're gonna be toned. Doing the gritty reps, no matter where you're starting, if you're starting here, doing the gritty reps is gonna help you just scooch up on the right of the spectrum. It's gonna help you just build muscle. But if you're starting with no muscle, it's gonna do the same thing. It's just gonna help you scooch up to the right on this spectrum, okay? If you ever get to a point where you're like, you know what? I got enough muscle, then you could just stop increasing the weight. Like you can just stop getting way stronger. If you're like, but generally that very rarely happens if somebody's like, oh, I got too much muscle. If you ever get to that point where like, okay, you know what? I got more muscle, then you just hit me up and I will personally give you some guidance on how great of a problem that is to have, right? But very more likely is that you're not exactly where you want to be when it comes to how much muscle that you have, okay? So it's not like if you're doing the the bro split stuff, you're doing the high reps, you're doing the, like, I'm manually gonna make it go slow, you're still working up on this same spectrum, right? The difference is it's just gonna be more inefficient, right? So instead of like, you might just like stay right put where you are on the spectrum, or it might just take you way longer, way more hours, way more sessions to actually scooch to the right. Whereas when you're doing the gritty reps, that's just gonna help you develop muscle as efficiently as possible and scooch up to the right on this spectrum, right? But this is just one part of it. Like, to get toned, right? If getting toned was like building a house, there's 3 parts, right? You gotta do muscle, you gotta do the hypertrophy. So hypertrophy is everything that we just talked about. It's doing training to build muscle, right? You gotta do some cardio, and you gotta do nutrition, right? So this one, like if you don't wanna look bulky, for example, I don't know, I'm kinda going on a tangent on this bulky thing, but if you don't wanna look bulky, you just gotta make sure that your cardio and nutrition is super dialed in, okay? And then you can build muscle, and you have good cardio and nutrition. That's how you just build like the tone look, right? But if you just do hypertrophy and you do terrible with cardio and nutrition, that's how you could get a little bulky, right? But so that's kind of how it works. Don't think of like training a certain training style to equate with like I'm looking bulky or toned or aesthetic, and compare it. Remember the context of the other parts of this house that's required to get toned, right? Hypertrophy is hypertrophy. Like your muscle fibers don't know the difference. Like they just know if you're training them and they're growing or not. They're not. It's not gonna like doing a certain training style is automatically gonna put you to a certain body type, if that makes sense. Okay, so don't fall for that trap. That's what I'm trying to say. All right. So if we do kind of like we talked about, let's say we're doing, instead of a bro split, we're doing full body, right? And let's say we're doing example program might look something like this. Let's say I do like the machine chest press. Let's say I do like the lat pull down. Okay, let's say I do the leg extension. Okay, let's say I do the cable curls. Okay, let's say I do the cable push down. Right, and let's say I do the machine lateral raise. Right, look at these are all different muscle groups. We got the chest, we got the back, we got the quads, we got the biceps, we got the triceps, and we got the delts, right? But if I get, let's say I do 2 sets of 5 on each. 2 sets of 5. 2, 5. 2, 5. Right? And I'm just making sure that for these 2 sets, I'm making sure that they're gritty, kind of like we just went over. I'm not just doing inefficient sets, but I'm doing those sets where I'm pushing my hardest, but it's still going slow. That's how you can get super good bang for your buck with all these sets that you're doing. We're only doing 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 total sets in the workout, but they're all gonna be super high quality, and that's how you can get in and out of the gym in 45 minutes, but actually leave getting a better workout than if you were to stay for an hour and a half and just blast your muscles and just try to get a crazy pump. And the benefit of doing this too is you're also gonna leave the gym, you're not gonna be aching in pain. You're gonna leave feeling strong. Like because you did more muscle groups, you're not gonna feel like achy or like limping. You're just gonna feel like strong. And man, I feel worked. I got really high quality sets in, and these muscles are gonna be ready to train again in 2 days. You're not gonna have to wait and get like this crazy soreness and have to wait for a whole week, right? So not only is it more effective and more optimal, it's also just more sustainable. It's gonna fit into your life better, right? It's gonna be easy to stick to for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. I don't wanna just help you like get some crazy workouts in for a couple months and make a tiny bit of progress. I want to help you become a gym goer and build muscle for the rest of your life and get into a routine that you learn to love, that you can constantly get stronger at, and that you know is going to set you up for success. And that's why be careful what you hear from these meathead fitness influencers, because they will steer you wrong if they're telling you to do stuff like just chasing the burn, just going crazy on one muscle group at a time, just really thinking more about feelings rather than gritty reps. If they don't tell you about gritty reps like that, then they don't actually know how muscle growth works. Okay, and the reason I can say that is because I used to not know how muscle growth works, and I used to be the bro split guy. I was the meathead fitness influencer, and I steered my clients wrong for a long time. And it took me going through a lot of failures and a lot of experience, a lot of my own time and energy and money to learn this stuff, and that's why I'm sharing it with you for free here on YouTube, just because I love helping people, right? So I hope that you take this, apply it to your own gym journey so that you can be more efficient, more effective, and I just want to help you become the best, most muscular and confident version of yourself. So hope that helps. If you got any questions on how the gritty reps can be applied to your own gym journey, just reach out to me on Instagram, DM me the word optimize, and we can have a conversation. I can see how I might be able to help. Later, guys.